now. My name's Aaliyah Frazier, and I'm the project manager with Chesapeake Harvest. Um, we're a food safety outreach project, and right now we're housed under the Eastern Economic Development Center, but when we're getting refunded for a new round of, we're getting more money to continue this work for 2 more years, and we're moving to another organization called the Eastern Shore Entrepreneurship Center. But we're a project of these organizations, and our focus is really just food safety, produce safety, helping farmers become more viable in the marketplace by having these food safety plans and requirements, and just educating. And one of our biggest pieces that sets us apart from other food safety outreach projects is that we're training community educators. So the people that we train come from communities of urban farmers, rural farmers, small farmers, and they're able to speak the language basically of their peers. So it's kind of like farmer to farmer, peer to peer education, and it allows for more in-depth knowledge uptake. And I think it also allows people to really implement practices when they see their peers are doing them. So I say that to say since we have more money, we do have a couple more slots for trainees, and it'll be around 2 years of your time. Not a lot of time each month. We'll have webinars, we'll have workshops that you're required to come to. You'll get trained under Lindsay Gilmore. She has a lot of expertise, and I'll let her introduce herself on doing things like risk assessments for farmers and helping them create food safety plans. And the best part is you get paid $25 an hour plus travel to attend these trainings. So if anyone's interested in becoming a trainee, you can email us at info@chesapeakeharvest.com. You can also check out our website, chesapeakeharvest.com, where we have a lot of resources. We have videos, we have toolkits, we have templates for things like record keeping and standard operating procedures. So yeah, those are two of the main things we do. And then last thing that we can do for free, if there's a farmer on this call who needs a risk assessment to see where they're stacking up with their operation and their food safety, or if you want a food safety plan, we can come to you and work with you one-on-one and do that for free. So it's a great resource, and we're here for that. So please email us at info@chesapeakeharvest.com if you're interested in that as well.
We should say that we can come to you if you're in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, in the Mid-Atlantic. I know there's a lot of people from around the country on here. So yes, you have to be, yeah, we have to be able to reach you without a plane. So today, this is about, we call this the Insider Scoop on Wholesale Buyers. A lot of the farmers we work with and our trainees requested this as a training because, it's kind of like, it's one of those things that's kind of mystified. A lot of people might want to scale up and might want to start selling to wholesale or restaurants or aggregators and food hubs, but a lot of those places do have some food safety requirements, and they also have other requirements. So this isn't only like super specific to food safety. We just want to hear from our presenters and our panelists on their organization and how they interface with farmers. Today, we're going to have Neil Ringer from the Common Market, Allison Blansfield from Sweetgreen, Steven Strub from Wegmans, and Brian Wachira from 4P Foods. They're from all over the country as well and stationed in different places, and they're going to introduce themselves fully in the next section. But I hope you're getting questions. I hope you came here with questions, and I hope more questions are generated as you hear the panelists talking. And we want the chat to be a lively space where you ask your questions, and towards the end, we'll have a section just for questions from the audience. But if you don't want to wait until then, please type it in the chat so we don't lose that momentum or those questions. And maybe we'll be able to answer during the panel, or we might save it until the end. And today I put a list of the things we're going to talk about. You can read that. But I'll let Lindsay Gilmore, who's the project director and lead educator, give an introduction of herself too.
Thanks, Aaliyah. Leah and I are partners in crime with Chesapeake Harvest. I am Lindsay Gilmore. I'm here talking to you from Philadelphia, where I'm based. I have been a produce safety educator. I do have other kinds of food safety training, but I focus on produce safety since around 2010. I am also involved in the Group GAP. I'm a Group GAP consultant, which is a way for farmers to get audited and certified as a group. It's a very particular way of doing that. And I got a lot of training through co-managing a pilot for the USDA with a colleague of mine, Jeff Stoltzfus in Pennsylvania. So that got me into the food safety space. I'm actually a chef by trade, but I have been a buyer, a wholesale buyer. So I've really been working with local farmers, trying to help them find access to wholesale markets for over 20 years now. And this particular project is focused in the Mid-Atlantic. We can even go up into New York if you're in New York. And we do, as Aaliyah says, help farmers one-on-one. If they want to get a food safety plan, if they just want to get a risk assessment done. I also do projects elsewhere. I have a project out in Montana and Washington that I'm involved with right now with the network of food hubs. So I work with Pennsylvania Farmers Union. I have a little contract going on with the Mississippi Food Hub at the moment. So we can go further afield virtually, but in person we're in the Mid-Atlantic. And I am also a lead trainer for the PSA grower training. I do a little bit of that.
Awesome, thank you. And some of the other educators that we work with are Crystal Foreman and Kimberly Rakes. If you know their names, they're just other resources that you can reach out to. And in a follow-up email, I'll share all of our emails and contact info. But let's get started with our great group of panelists. I'm going to start out by asking Brian from 4P Foods, really interested in what y'all are doing in Maryland in the region. And I'm curious, what is your mission and how do you support the farmers who wholesale to you? Because I know you do a lot of farmer support.
Yes, yeah, my name is Brian, food safety manager at 4P Foods. So yeah, our mission is simple. We want to empower you to change the food system. So we get our produce from farmers, small and medium-sized. Those are the ones we prioritize. Many are small farmers from around Virginia, and we do sell their produce to DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So yeah, that's simple. Anyone have a question on our mission?
And do you provide any extra support to farmers so that they are able to wholesale to you?
Yeah, so going to that is, yeah, having said that we do prioritize small farmers, these farmers need a lot of support from anyone who's buying from them. So one, we do conduct something we call demand planning. So we plan for seasons ahead. So we reach out to them. We do have farm visits, which happen frequently, and we use these farm visits not as audits or something. It's just getting to know them better, so we can get more info on them that we can share with our customers. For customers, we have enough information on each and every single farmer. Anything you buy from 4P, there is a story behind it. If you're buying green beans, onions, bananas, you can on our website, you can actually read about who planted, where we got it from. If it's a family owned, if it's a bigger farm, you can actually see where it came from, the size of the farm, where the farm is located, what they use, their practices, how we link up our customers with our farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for these farmers, we do production planning, as I mentioned, every winter. We do this with the aim of co-creating a production plan together. Another thing is we are very interested in hearing their stories behind their farms and work. And again, I'm going to repeat, we emphasize support to smaller, support smaller to medium-sized, and also beginning, BIPOC, women and veteran-owned operated farms.
Okay. Wow, thank you. That's exciting to hear. And we'll put the website and stuff for 4P Foods in the chat and then follow up. And now I want to, Allison, if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Sweetgreen. And we want to know if you buy directly from farmers or not. And if, yeah, and how do you source from regional farmers if you're not buying directly from them?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Blansfield. I am the value chain manager at Sweetgreen. That is essentially our procurement team. I lead the team procuring everything from our organic tender leaf and baby greens to our grocery items and dry goods and dairy. So I've been with Sweetgreen for almost 6 years. Prior to this, I was running a small urban farm in Philadelphia. I'm still based just outside Philadelphia. And our headquarters is actually, Sweetgreen is headquartered in California, but we have our supply chain procurement team spread across the country. So the way that we operate, we'd like to place our procurement team regionally so that we're able to really build out a network of local and regional suppliers and really kind of understand again the food landscape for each of our markets. Maybe a little bit about Sweetgreen. We're a national restaurant chain where we sell primarily salads and grain-based bowls. We have a seasonal menu that changes about 5 times a year. So we have, we're always working off of a select set of salads that are changing in terms of ingredients to best reflect, what's growing in that region at that time. We've been around for, I think, roughly 15 years now. And we have, I think now about 160 locations around the country. Our densest markets are on the East Coast. Our first location was opened in Georgetown in DC. So our largest markets are, DC, New York, and Boston, but we have now newer markets across the country, Miami, Atlanta, Texas. We're opening in Detroit and Minneapolis this fall. So we are, trying to really test the model of, as we scale, how do we continue to do what we do and how we were founded, which was to create, each market with its own, kind of dedicated regional supply chain. And so that's kind of that's the mission that we're up against to continue to do and execute on as we grow. So I think the question was, how do we procure directly from farmers? The answer to that is actually no. Sweetgreen doesn't cut any POs or send checks to growers, but what we do is we partner with selected distributors in each market that we're in and set up a special relationship with those distributors whereby it's understood that each item that Sweetgreen is going to purchase from our distributors is going to come from our selected supplier. So we go direct to our growers and our valued suppliers and set up, direct relationships with them. We go and visit them. We get on the farms. We understand their operations. We align on specs and pricing, and then we introduce that program to our distributors. And then our distributors are responsible for actually managing our inventory, delivering daily into our stores, and again, placing POs for product with our farmers and our manufacturers and our valued suppliers, and bringing that product into their warehouse. So that's a brief overview. So yeah, and with that though, I mean, again, as I kind of mentioned, in terms of how we're set up, our mission from day one was to support local and regional food. And so, we've designed our supply chain to be able to do that as best we can. So right now, I think we have stores in roughly, we call them quote unquote 10 markets, which would be, urban areas. And so each of those urban areas has its own dedicated produce distributor and its own dedicated dry goods distributor. And so with that, we're trying to ensure that we're not consolidating to one national distribution service, but being able to, again, work with these local distributors to be able to, for example, pick up from our selected local grower. And so that's really how we've been able to maintain, as we're growing, being able to maintain the commitment of building out, continuing to build out local relationships and in each of our markets that we're in. We're really excited for our opening in Minneapolis this fall. We have we're going to be, we're set up with a great local distributor, and we're able to partner with, a bunch of local growers in that market right now for things like goat cheese, bunch of different produce items, tofu, our bread. So things of this sort, we continue to try and build our supply chain in our quote unquote, the sweetgreen way, so that we can continue to, be able to continue to meet small, medium-sized growers as we open up new markets across the country.
Yeah, thank you. Sweetgreen is one of my favorite things, the salads there. And it's good to know you were an urban farmer, and a lot of you probably have some farm background, and that brought you onto this other side. So it just shows the commitment to the smaller farmers. And now I want to talk to Neil from Common Market. The Common Market's in Philadelphia, but can you, or it was originally in Philadelphia, but I know you're not in Philadelphia. So if you could give us a little background about where you are, what is the Common Market, and would you consider Common Market a farmer-focused wholesale buyer? And if so, why?
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to answer all that. Hi, everyone. I'm Neil Ringer. I'm the Director of Operations for the Common Market. I am physically located in Atlanta. The Common Market started about 15 years ago as well, up in Philadelphia, and we are a nonprofit food distributor that mainly focuses on farm to institution or driving our anchor institution markets like schools, hospitals, university systems. And we, I believe about 6 years ago, we took the model of creating regional food systems through that marketing channel, and we moved to the Southeast as well. So I am in our Atlanta warehouse, and then we also have opened up in Houston. So we have a team in Houston that services the Houston, Dallas, Austin areas. And then we are newly in the Chicago area as well. Very early on, we have our first partnership employee there that is working on building partnerships, and as we move forward with infrastructure there. So we work with, in each of our locations, we work with a set of producers, produce. We also do meat, dairy, eggs, value-added produces or value-added products as well. And I believe in our Philadelphia and Southeast, we We do have a mile limitation on our procurement, and it's 250 miles. And between those two outside of those warehouses, like a radius. And then in our Texas operation, we do 500 miles because Texas is big and it takes a lot of time to get everywhere. And so let's see, the question was, are we a farmer-focused distributor? And I would definitely say we are. So I think a few things, our mission is to connect communities to, good, sustainable family farms and food from those farms. And so with a vision of creating really vibrant food systems, regional food systems in each area, which is why we kind of have specialty approaches in each area that we're operating in. I think one other aspect of our organization is that we are a nonprofit. And so just by the operation of our structure, we have a governing board, and I wish I have 4 boards in all of our location that include a mix of experts in fields, but also farmers, and they have the final dictation of the operation and how we operate. And so we have someone guiding us on those principles. And then we also work really close with our farms, and the overall vision is definitely invest in infrastructure that is going to link small to mid-sized farms with these institutional markets. So on the one hand, that's investing in infrastructure on our end, warehouses, trucks, and food safety protocols and education, but also investing in infrastructure with our farm partners. And that can look like supporting and fundraising for technical assistance. It can look like helping to find capital and providing capital as well. So many other ways to invest in the infrastructure that will link small farms to institutional purchasers. And like I said, I think earlier, our main customer base is, it varies between regions actually, but all mainly institution based. And so up in the mid-Atlantic, where our Philadelphia warehouse is, we serve a large amount of public schools, university systems, and community organizations, but also through government contracts. And then in the Southeast, we serve a lot of universities and community organizations. And then in our Texas chapter, we do a lot of public school and private school work as well. That's our main customer base there. And through all that, that means that one of the reasons we kind of have a national model is that we partner with the food service management companies that often oversee these accounts. And so we have great relationships and build those out on a national level so that we can go into these regional areas with, say, a Aramark or many other the food service management companies that operate cafeterias and hospitals and food service in either schools, hospitals, offices. And so we have a network and working with those organizations as well.
Thank you. I can definitely attest to Common Market's farmer focus. When I was farming on the Eastern Shore, we were selling sweet potatoes to them. And in order to help us with a curing facility, they completely fundraised for us to build a high tunnel so we could have a heated space to cure our sweet potatoes. And of course, we had a high tunnel out the deal too, so that was great. So now our last panelist is Wegmans, and I would love if Steven could introduce himself, a little bit about Wegmans, since I know you've been there for decades, so you have a lot of experience. And what we want to know from Wegmans specifically is, do farmers sell directly to individual stores, or are farmers doing business with a buyer for a region? So are they selling directly to the store or interfacing with a buyer?
Very good. Well, thanks for having me here today. My name is Steve Strube. I'm the manager of produce food safety here at Wegmans. Been with the company about 25 years, done a lot of things. Produce manager, I've ran our Wegmans organic farm. I've managed our cheese ripening facility, our affinage, for a couple of years as a startup there. I was the zone produce merchandiser in Rochester in the Southern Tier for several years, and have coordinated the local grown program, both as a produce manager and as a zone merchandiser. Wegmans is a pretty well-known for our size retailer here on the East Coast. We are currently in 7 states, New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina. This fall, we'll have our first store in Delaware. And in another year, hopefully, we'll have our first store in Connecticut. So continually opening about 2 or 3 stores a year at a pace that we can handle and staff our stores correctly for the amount of people we have. Wegmans, I believe, was number 3 on the Great Places to Work poll from Consumer Reports this year. And we were also the number 1 retailer of Great Places to Work as well. So we take a lot of pride in our accomplishments there. As far as selling directly to our stores, most of our small local growers would sell directly to our stores. We have produce warehouses in Rochester, which is where our headquarters is, also in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, and we are currently building another facility in Southern Virginia. So for a few of our larger growers, they do have an option. If they have that kind of volume, they can deliver to those warehouses. But I would say for a majority of our smaller growers, it's store delivery that we currently do. They connect with both the store produce managers and our produce office to help coordinate these purchases, but delivery would be directly to those stores. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see in the chat, a lot of people, are coming from all over, working with farm to school programs, business consultants, farmers. So yeah, keep introducing yourself, keep asking questions in the chat. I'm reading one right now. Okay, hi Becky. Yeah, you worked at a co-op selling to Wegmans. That's cool. I just wanted to know if anyone in the audience has interfaced with these panelists before. So we'll get into the next section where we've created a list of questions based on some things that came in through social media and also our trainees and farmers that we worked with. And one of the things that, our focus is food safety. So I'll just start off with that question. So what kind of food safety requirements, certifications, or planning do you require from farms in your network? And for some of you, do you create your own evaluation criteria instead of requiring GAP certification or organic certification? So I'll open the floor to any panelists that want to answer that.
I could start with that if you'd like, from a Wegmans point of view. Basically, for any supplier, be they a small local grower or a huge international or national grower, it all starts with food safety. If you don't have the proper food safety documentation to get started with us, you will not be a supplier until we receive that. For our smaller local growers, for the first year of growing with Wegmans, we ask that they complete the USDA GAP audit, basically the first standard audit. For their first year growing with Wegmans. By the second year, we ask that they step up to the harmonized GAP or harmonized GAP plus USDA audit, or we'd accept any GFSI audit they might be using as well. From second year and on, that would be the expectation for anybody growing for Wegmans. If you're an organic grower, we'd expect to see your organic certification and receive a copy of that every time you're recertified every year. So we have that on file as well. We do have a little extra thing that we're doing this year. Myself and one of my co-workers, we're making grower visits this year that are centered around both food safety and product quality. We're trying to get to every local farm at least 3 times throughout the growing season. Take a look at their food safety practices, make sure they're matching up with what we're seeing on their audits that they submit, as well as looking at quality and making sure the quality that they're sending to Wegmans is meeting our spec. Like every other industry out there, we have really struggled with labor in our stores. We have lost a lot of folks that used to be pretty knowledgeable in the produce arena, moving to other sections of the store to cover our needs. So we have a lot of newer employees there. So to take some of the heat off them, we are sending some more experienced folks out to do these audits and just making sure that quality is meeting our specs. So that's something else we're doing a little extra above and beyond throughout the growing season this summer. Thank you.
I can jump in, and from Sweetgreen's perspective, fairly similar to Wegmans, we require a USDA GAP certification in order to do business with us. We also, though, do approve a state GAP certification as well for those that, states that do employ that. We look at our food safety kind of more from like a risk factor standpoint too, in terms of what items those growers are contracting with us to sell. So if it's our leafy greens, we do require a higher level of food safety, GFSI and above. For like our tender leaf and our romaine. Our cheeses, we do require, we're trying to get all of our cheese producers to a SQF standard. And so anyways, when we look at a lot of our food safety requirements, we are looking at it by, kind of by item and risk factor to Sweetgreen and what we would require of our growers. We do have, we've been working over the last year to create a what we call our supplier manual, and we have broken that out by kind of a larger supplier manual, how to do business with Sweetgreen, and also a smaller supplier, what we call a valued supplier manual, so that we can really be, being, as I'd say as open and willing to work with our smaller growers on, kind of a path to getting to, where we would like them to be in terms of food safety. And similar to what Steve said, we are working on kind of like a timeline approach to that. So if we do have a small grower that, starts working with us and they have a state GAP certification, we'd like to see them at that harmonized level, within 3 years. And so that's kind of, and we have a food safety team that is able to provide resources to them, one-on-one assistance or questions. And so we're working with them directly to kind of help get them there. We also, another example, we work with a lot of different bread bakers. We are, working with varying degrees of size businesses there. And so with that, we have some bread bakers that have, SQF, facilities, are very large scale. And then we have bakers that, are only audited by, their city health department. And so with that, we're trying to create an approach to working with all, bakers of all sizes and working with them to get audited by independent third party, when needed. So yeah, I think our approach seems fairly similar to Wegmans in that we are asking, again, in order to do business with Sweetgreen, you do have to have a minimum third party audit, with, at the base level, a GAP certification by USDA or a state program. And then we do have our food safety team is able to work with our smaller growers to work on continuous improvement over the years of our partnership.
Nice. And I meant to ask this of 4P Foods and Brian. So you could probably wrap this into how you answer your food safety requirements, because I know it's related, but who do you sell to? And yeah, I'm sure that regulates what you need from the farmer based on who you're selling to.
Yeah, so we have CSA shares. So we do sell to individuals, we deliver to their doors. We have 2 warehouses. We have one in Warrenton, one in Charlottesville. So the one in Charlottesville primarily focuses on selling to businesses, so retail stores, schools, grocery stores. And in Warrenton, up until recently, we are only focusing on CSA shares. So many of our customers would be individuals. And going back to food safety requirements, our approach is, I would say, different from both Wegmans and Sweetgreen. Maybe somehow, towards the end of what Alison was saying, I think we might align a bit. So we, because of our mission, we deal with many small farms. Many of these farms getting these certifications is cumbersome. It's expensive. It's a hectic process. Many of them we started way back before we even started to strictly implement any food safety guidelines. So what we try to do is we ask for at least a GAP certification, but we know many of them don't have it. So we ask for at minimum a clean water test. So we test for E. coli, and we ask them to update it annually and be kept on file with us. Also, we provide enough resources for them, as a path to eventually getting at least GAP certified. Remembering this process is voluntary, so we have to at least approach it in a way that would make it easier, or easy for them. So we give them enough resources. Also, we've been trying to think about, there's a group GAP thing, by USDA. So we might as well as try to bring them together, have them audited as a group, so that any produce coming from them would be considered GAP certified. This, we think, is the easiest way out, because trying to get all of them, we're talking about 250 plus small farms. It's a big challenge. So that's our approach.
Cool.
Brian, talk to me about Group GAP after this. I have a lot of experience with USDA Group GAP.
Thank you. Perfect timing.
Great. I'll fill in Common Markets kind of role in this. So since we are a distributor, many of our food safety requirements are dictated by our customers. And so first, before the produce or the farm requirements, we are a SQF level 2 certified facility in our Philadelphia and Atlanta warehouse, and soon to be this fall in our Texas warehouse as well. And so we use that as a tool to access a lot of these markets through food service management companies that may require that. And so when we look at our institutional customers, some of them do require, GAP certification, but then more likely if they're maybe self-operated, or if they may not have those specific requirements in place. And so what that has led us to do is kind of have a regional approach to our requirements across the board. In the Mid-Atlantic, in our Philadelphia warehouse, we do require GAP certification for any produce that is coming in. But in the Southeast, we have found that the farms that we are looking to work with are a little, they either haven't had the opportunity to get GAP certified, have lack of resources. And so we have a different approach where we are working with them. One, if the customer, we can get it to the correct customer, but also we require newly within 12 months of the first purchase to get GAP certification. So that allows for enough time to maintain records and to like get all of the paperwork in place. And then we also, and the same in our Texas location as well. And then we also do provide funding and resources for that as well, whether that's through Common Markets fundraising or through many other like food safety assistance programs. We can either work with consultants that we have on board to bring them out and to do a risk assessment. And that's looked like fully from a farm that has never had a risk assessment before, or to someone that's maybe processing a few things and is looking for a HACCP plan. So we've kind of run across the board on that. And then as far as other products, we for any processed product, we do look for a HACCP plan and accept, of course, any third-party certificate as well. And so we do have essentially an internal questionnaire about food safety for all of our farms that are required to fill out, that if they are not GAP certified, that they need to answer these questions. And that looks like a different mix of looking at their post-harvest handling options, what facilities they have available, what infrastructure they have available, and then we make an assessment on that, and kind of decide, do we have market opportunities, and then do we also have the support to help move this farmer in the right direction. And I believe that should cover all of our requirements. We also do a farmer impact assessment, which includes a lot of produce safety and quality notes, but it also looks at environmental practices, community practices and stewardship, where we do a farm visit, or the past 2 years it's been mostly virtual, where we ask our produce, our suppliers to kind of go through this assessment with us, so we can use it as a tool to market to our customer base that is often run by corporate social responsibility sectors of organizations, or sustainability areas of a university or a school system or something like that, or farm to school or something like that, where they're looking for an assessment on either our impact of our supply chain, whether that's environmental practices, and community and labor practices and things like that. And then lastly, we don't require organic certificate, but we do have customers that are looking for organic certification. So we do work with farms that have organic certification, and we keep that up to date as it's renewed. And it looks different within our regions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good to hear all of these different sides and perspectives based on, the sizes of the operations and also who you're selling to. And I think it's also interesting to note that it sounds like everyone works with the farmers where they are. So you might start out not having a really robust food safety plan or all of the requirements, but you guys will work with a farmer to get what they need, or, have stages and levels to the first year they need this, the second year they need to scale up and do that. I think it's really good to hear from these perspectives, and I hope everyone's gaining something. One of the other questions that comes up is about pricing produce for wholesale buyers and distributors. I think a lot of farmers have trouble doing that, and I wanted to know if any of y'all had any advice to farmers in pricing, so that everyone wins, like they get the price they need, and also you're able to sell it at a markup.
I can start with that one. In this economy, I don't know who's winning right now, I'll be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I've never seen anything as difficult as what it is right now for growers to come up with a price and retailers agree upon a price. It's been very difficult. What I would ask is you reach out early and you reach out often to who we're selling at with Wegmans. Our merchants are more than happy to field calls. Our store personnel can put you in contact with the right people. We try to have meetings throughout the winter months when folks aren't growing to plan for about where our pricing will be, knowing that things can change by the day, quite frankly, but we try to at least give a range so growers know about where they're going to need to be and what they're asking for their items. First time in my career that I can remember growers telling us they will not grow certain commodities this year because, quite frankly, they can't do it for what we're paying. So costs of their inputs have gotten to the point where it's made certain crops not profitable for them to grow for us this year. So little sad to see that happening, but again, reach out early, reach out often, have those preseason meetings with folks so you know about where prices are going to be, and then just stay in contact with your buying group throughout that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have advice?
Yeah, I can jump in and we are seeing price increases across the board from every single ingredient that we buy. It's been really very, very challenging for obviously our suppliers, and just the rise in the cost of all of the things that they do, labor inputs, raw materials, to we've lost some suppliers just due to the fact that they just cannot, and specifically labor has been really challenging. They haven't been able to execute on our needs. And so, it's been, a tough 6 months in terms of, taking price increases, to be honest, and losing some really great suppliers just because of the labor conditions. But in terms of, working with growers on pricing, we, our seasonal menu does offer a little bit more flexibility. We do have time in terms of, we plan about 9 months to a year ahead on our seasonal menus. And with that, I'm able to work with growers, well in advance of those menus being priced out to try and, obviously build. We do kind of more of a cost build model on those salads. And so I'd say with our seasonal ingredients, we have a lot more flexibility to, quite honestly, meet the farmer where they're at and ensure that we're giving them a fair price, and one that, they need to be profitable. So again, that seasonal menu changes 5 times a year, and usually has about anywhere from 3 to 5 different typically produce items. And so with that, we have a good opportunity to work with a lot of growers and meet them where they are, and incorporate a lot of small growers with higher pricing, to be honest, into those menus. Our other items that we have, which we call like our core ingredients, are items that we have on our menu year round. Those are a little bit more, don't have as much wiggle room, but we, we are able to, again, work with our growers and try to, to be, we're always as honest and upfront as possible. I'll always run the cost impact on our end and share it with them and see, to give them an idea of what, the impact to, Sweetgreen would be to accept that price, and try to work with them on, kind of any creative solutions to see where we can bring down pricing, whether that's a larger case pack or, working together on logistics solutions, things like that. So I think, echoing Steve here, the earlier we can talk, the better, and the more time we have to work on creative solutions and, build out a good plan that works for both, the farmer and Sweetgreen. I'd say that, like Sweetgreen, again, because of our regional approach to building our supply chains, we don't we're not like looking at a commodity price that's across the board, and we do have some regionality to our pricing. And so that, again, I think that helps incorporate more of our smaller and mid-sized growers and meet them where they are on a profitable price point for them as well.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Steve and Allison said of planning early. One model that we're seeing a lot more is our institutions are really excited and looking to pre-commit to items like seasons ahead of time. So that means we can have the price conversation very early on and understand the way forward. And just like Allison said, I think the approach of being as transparent as possible, and understanding where everyone is in this equation, and we offer, through our logistics support, we offer things like we can pick up from farms that don't have the access to either cold storage, or obviously with the gas prices that are going right now, and then yeah, we mainly work from a perspective of looking at our good customer relationship to understand their needs and their budgets, and then also an education piece on that, of helping them. A lot of our customers have worked with large distributors mainly, and then we educate them. They have some push to work for local and to understand, and they start to do that, and then we try to educate them on kind of price modeling and what that's going to look like. And of course, the answer is always it's going to be a little more expensive, but we try to help them understand why, and then what role we play in that, and then how this breaks it down to the producer level as well. And so one other thing as far as forward thinking, with kind of the recent labor kind of issues, or the cost of labor recently, is that we've started to look at a few options of working with farms specifically to maybe we have a contract or an opportunity for them, and then understanding what products could be mechanized, like harvesting, and where they could cut costs on labor that we could plan ahead of time, rather than kind of once you get down that road. And so that's been a new thing that we're looking into and having those conversations with producers as well.
Cool, cool. Brian, did you want to add anything or?
Yeah, easier. My advice would be, we just recommend, looking at local market reports to, do price and pack research, and also we pay them fairly. So I would say, we would go as far as paying them what they want.
That's really good. Cool. One of the other things that comes up, I think, is quality and packaging for produce. We recently had some post-harvest handling workshops where, we talked about those things, but there was no wholesale buyers present. So it'd be good to hear from you. What are you looking for in the quality or the packaging? And does that widely vary? Just any feedback or thoughts on that?
And I would just add to that, what are your requirements about maintaining the cold chain, whether it's for specific products, and how do you navigate that with small farmers who don't have that kind of capacity?
So for 4P, we do not have specific specs to be followed because we're trying to be inclusive of all growers, regardless of experience with wholesale. But we do know that we need to maintain some level of packaging uniformity and cold chain confidence. So we have a 2-hour driving difference between our two warehouses. One is down south where most of our farmers are, and that's closer to them. So for most of them, we can pick up the produce with our reefer trucks or vans or whatever from their farms. And for those ones who are further down, we partner with logistics, other logistics companies, other warehouses that can actually store this produce, and then we can pick up from them. So we would get a plant that's closer to most of these farmers, where all these farmers can drop the produce there, and then we can pick up from these locations. That's basically how we're trying to make sure that we don't break the cold chain. In terms of quality, we try to assist them with as much info as we can on how they can standardize their packs, the pack sizes. Of course, factoring in food safety requirements, no commingling, and whatnot. So we help them, as much as we can. We go as far as we can.
I'll jump in and kind of add to that because I think we have probably similar approaches. Currently, since we're an SQF facility, we do require new wax or corrugated packaging with everything that comes in. And so just standard, that's our packaging size. We do work with our farms to have more correct specs or maintain like pack sizes. And so we work with those in the beginning, and a lot of that time that is based on our customer needs as well. And a lot of what we found is that customers are, especially if it's food service where they're unpackaging and they're doing a lot of cooking, the product pack size specs are usually, we have flexibility there. So that's one kind of aspect that we can lean on. And then as far as cold chain, we in all of our warehouses, we have trucks, and depends on the region. We've definitely seen it vary by region. In the Mid-Atlantic, we do a lot of, we work with a lot of farm partners to go to their farms and pick up and bring it back to our warehouse. And usually that is coordinated with backhauling and doing other routes that we have. In the Southeast, many of the farms are 2+, 3+ hours away. And so, we just work with creative logistic solutions because it may not make sense for our truck to run for 20 cases or something like that, or 3 pallets somewhere in between. And so, we have to find creative solutions, and it's definitely a barrier that we're seeing. And so we do are looking to invest in infrastructure for those things, whether it's cold chain on site, where better cold storage on site, or reefer trucks for farms or vans to make deliveries in. And we don't have a specific requirement. We do look for all of our if they deliver to the warehouse, to have cold storage or cold trucks. But it does depend on the product as well. We have a few other products that aren't maintained, that we get in infrequently, but the cost of not purchasing very often doesn't equal buying a new truck for the farm or something like that. So we try and work with the farms and understanding our purchasing relationship with them, and then what their needs are as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can chime in for Wegmans here. As far as packaging requirements, pack size is the big thing for us. We need consistency in pack size, so we can do our billing properly. We expect all new packaging or clean packaging, no reuse packaging when it comes in. They can deliver to store or warehouse. Warehouse is probably going to check temp a little closer than what our stores are able to do. I would say probably close to half of our local growers have refrigerated trucks that they deliver with. The other half are pretty much harvesting that morning and delivering directly to our stores, especially in like our Rochester area. We have 25 stores in this area. So all our growers are very close to whatever store they've been linked to, and they can get stuff from field to our stores within within an hour easily, once they're done picking. So critical items, we ask for refrigeration, but if it's fresh picked corn in the morning and it's coming directly to a store, most likely it's not going to be a requirement for us at the store level.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. We do, again, since we work with our network of distributors, we are putting, our growers in touch with our distributors to ensure that they are, well aware of our distributors' requirements for receiving, in terms of cold chain and management on the receiving end. And the pack sizes we receive, we're not looking to repack at our distributor warehouse or anything that, our pack sizes that are coming from our growers are going straight into our stores. So yeah, we're able to work directly with our growers to just ensure that, we understand what case packs they'll be sending, and that's how our stores receive them. We have a couple custom case pack items. Typically, one of them that stands out is our kale. Kale, we work with a unbunched kale packed in like a 2-bushel carton, but otherwise most of our produce items are kind of standard case packs, standard industry case packs, and the receiving practices at our distributors would be typical to any mid to large scale produce distributor, in terms of cold chain and temping upon receiving at their warehouses.
Nice. Thank you. It sounds like, a lot of uniformity goes into this. And I think one of the things a lot of small farmers have trouble with is procuring some of these packaging. And one of our biggest suggestions is that people go in on those things together and buy them in bulk, so that it's not such a huge, infrastructure cost on individual farmers. So if anyone, that's just one suggestion. I have a few more questions that I could ask from this list, but it's 1 o'clock now, and I would love to hear if anyone, in the audience or participants have any questions that they want to ask. That's my daughter has a question, but anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask them or put it in the chat.
Aaliyah, while people are thinking about that, I think one of our questions here is, is it more practical or efficient if small farmers are aggregating their product? And I know I think all of you, Alison, Sweetgreen might be the different thing here, but the rest of you, I think, do buy from farms that are aggregating themselves, and I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think we have a few different types of situations like that across our supplier network. Mainly, I'm thinking of in Pennsylvania with Sunny Harvest and our Amish growing network that they have multiple sites that they work with, and but they have the infrastructure at one, and cold storage at one facility, and like loading dock at one facility. I think from a food safety perspective, what we're trying to always learn, and what is definitely we need in transparency on is the traceability within that network. Whether we've developed different systems throughout the past, or we've worked with farms to develop those systems, because we understand that if you have a farm 2 miles down the road or something like that, that's not a huge distance to cover, but we do have to it's moving different locations, and so we've worked with farms to either create a labeling system or work with them. I think newly, maybe moving forward, we'll be looking at buying labeling printers and like looking at PTI compliant labels to help them, maybe something more software oriented that is help them with this kind of navigation of aggregating from different farms. But we do buy it from one entity, so we wouldn't in all those instances, it's either a co-op or one central entity that we're purchasing from, that we would expect to have all that kind of transparency through.
What is
I agree with Neil. We pretty much expect the same. We work with similar co-ops in Pennsylvania. We ask, they're going to have to be able to trace back to farm and field. As long as they can do that, that's great. Kind of holding off on making any recommendations as far as any technology until a traceability rule is completed. I guess that's the whole industry right now, holding on until that gets finished up. But once we see that, we might work more with growers. We've looked at some technology options. We've considered possibly helping with the cost of that for some of our folks when the time comes, but we're just not prepared to do anything until we get that final rule sent our way.
And maybe to clarify what Steve was talking about, and I may not know totally everything about it, but the FDA is looking to pass a produce traceability. I forget, now I'm blanking on the name of it, but it is a more stringent produce traceability around certain areas of produce, like high risk items, like tomatoes, peppers are new ones that are on the list, according leafy greens as well, where they will be requiring like full traceability from the farm, and it would be up to the distributor to be able to prove that, or the purchaser as well. That would be folded into our requirements for our producers.
Yeah, and it won't be on everything, just certain high risk items that are listed. So I don't want to scare all the growers out there, just a few of them.
Well, I think if farms have a certain level of GAP certification, they're doing it anyway. So you don't have to worry about it too much if you're planning to get GAP certified. Brian, are you buying from any farms that are aggregating product, any farm co-ops or anything like that?
Yes, Amish growers in Pennsylvania. Yeah, so because that's the only.
I think I know all these growers.
That's the only way we can buy from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these co-ops would of course take care of all food safety regulations. So we don't need to worry about food safety or whatnot. But if other farmers are trying to pull together resources, then food safety gets tricky. So I don't think we have done that yet. Only co-ops.
Mm-hmm. And Alison, are you buying from any co-ops?
Probably the same ones. Yes. So we do work with the co-ops that do have the ability to provide the food safety documentation. So they're getting a lot of good business. I would add, we're piloting RFID technology right now, which is, I think it's like radio frequency identification, where essentially based off a GTIN code, you're able to track, you know, a farmer essentially has an app on their phone. They can easily print off of a label off of their, you know, their warehouse. It runs off a GTIN code, and then that case label, you know, is basically traced from the farm into the distributor, into Sweetgreen stores. It just, you know, the technology is expensive. The scanning technology is expensive. It's low lift on the farmer end in terms of just, it's a typical GTIN number and a case label, but you know, it's really right now we're just piloting, you know, what is the cost to Sweetgreen and our distributors to be able to then scan at the warehouse and then scan into our stores. But that's something we're actively piloting right now with a couple of our growers in some of our markets, which has been interesting to be able to see, because you can just go in live time and watch that case of product move, you know, from the farm into the store.
Oh yeah, thank y'all. There's 2 questions in the chat that we can get to, and then come back to some other questions. Grace asks, do farmers approach your businesses to become suppliers, or do your businesses ever approach farmers to become suppliers? I think that's a good question about what the process is like.
I would say we have a mix of both, and it really is I think led by like customer demand and what products people are looking for, and if we have a new contract opportunity or a new product opportunity, you know, I think we look to our current supply chain and see what we can figure out within it, and if we can't, we definitely like reach out and continue to look for, you know, building our very like diverse network. But we also do get farms coming to us. I think that would be, we have like a portal on our website or a questionnaire that people can fill out that goes directly to our procurement teams, and they can reach out and kind of start developing what that relationship, or at least the beginning talks of what a partnership could look like.
Wegmans is pretty similar. Back in 2007, 2008, when we started our organic farm, we really started it in hopes of locating farmers up and down the East Coast closer to our stores that were willing to grow organically for us. We worked with a lot of folks, and we've actually located, I think our count right now is 31 or 32 growers up and down the East Coast that are willing to grow organically for us. We try out different varieties at organic farms for flavor, for quality, yield, things like that. When we find an item we're excited about, we'll share that with these partner growers, ask them to grow that for us, and help develop their business in that way. So in a way, we have reached out to a lot of farmers, and we have no lack of folks beating at our door wanting to do business with us. So finding growers has not been an issue for us.
Yeah, and I believe I just wrote a quick note in the chat, but I think, you know, especially when we're going into new markets, we're, you know, unknown that, you know, it's not known that we're going into a new market. So we do a lot of the on the ground work to see who's out there. We go to the farmers markets, we meet the growers, we go out and try to arrange site visits, really just as an effort to get to know them. And so a lot of times it's really us reaching out to the growers, especially in new markets. And I do think we are working on a supplier intake form to just make it a little bit more accessible for growers who are, you know, would know of Sweetgreen and wanted to, you know, see what it would take to work with us, would be able to, you know, connect with us in a more easy, you know, fashion. Because right now we don't have really a email you can reach us at, and you know, it's kind of a, you know, it's not easy to figure out how to connect with us. So we're trying to make that a little easier.
Nice.
Yeah, for coffee, it's the same. It's a mix of both. So yeah, once we hear about them or they hear about us, we definitely will do farm visits. That's the only way we're able to get these stories. That's where we're good at, stories, you know, from farmers, just to let customers know where everything they're buying from us is coming from, who is farming them, what type of farmer. It's everything. So yeah, it's a mix of both.
Okay, nice. I might add a question like, what makes a farmer attractive or someone coming to you? Like, what would set them apart? Is it their food safety plan or?
Food safety for us is kind of the starting point. If you're not going to hit our food safety mark, it's going to be tough, to bring you on as a supplier. We do a lot of work with food safety with our growers. We have had grower trainings for food safety since 2006, I believe, that we bring our growers in every year, train them on food safety. We give them a $600 stipend every year to offset the cost of their audits, to help cover that cost so they continue to be able to afford those audits as well. So we've done a lot on that end. Our trainings, we bring in a lot of extension folks from all the states we do business in, as well as a lot of industry food safety experts. Something we've really worked on, keeping that information as current and up to date as possible. When the produce safety rule came out, we paid for the entire cost of the training, materials, and the AFDO certificates for all our growers in all the states we do business with. So we've done all we can to keep folks as up to date and as well trained as we can on food safety. Obviously, quality is a big deal for us. Flavor, especially on new and exciting, varieties you might have. Flavor is a huge deal for Wegmans as well. And then just the basic, follow through, dependability. Are you getting your orders to our stores on times, things like that. So all those things are considerations that we look at.
Okay.
For 4P, it's we are attracted, to their size. To their size, I mean small. We love working with these small farms. So
What's considered small? Sorry, really quick.
a family owned, I think. Most of family owned farms are small. These are the farms who we are interested in, finding a market for their produce. Most of them struggle with this, knowing where to sell their produce.
Mm-hmm.
On top of this, by women, veteran owned, these are what we are trying.
Yeah, I think for sweetgreen, definitely looking to work with as many organic growers as we can, but similar to what Brian said, looking to build, continue to build out what we call like our valued supplier base, which would be farmers that are small to medium size, women owned, minority owned. And so with that, we're really those for us are, certainly suppliers of interest. Again, I think the challenge is always there, the baseline being that food safety certification. But we are, in terms of like ingredients, we're always kind of innovating with our culinary team. And so, with that, any, unusual or new interesting ingredients, we're always open and looking at, sampling and constantly testing new items and new ingredients, new crops with our culinary team too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just add that we don't, like I mentioned earlier, we don't, depending on the region, we don't require a certification like for the first step, but it is a partnership and a conversation that we have to have. And kind of like Brian said, we look to tell a story and to really, because that seems to be the best way to move the product with our institutional partners. And then also, in my experience, we deal with a lot of farms that have maybe been only direct to consumer and then are looking to approach wholesale. And so it's looking for a farm that may that has an understanding of what wholesale means and kind of what the market they're getting into, or is at least interested in learning about that. I think and has maybe the land to expand or the opportunity to expand is also a great starting point, whether it's in production already or they're looking to figure out what markets are available so that they can put it into production. That's always a great starting point. And kind of like everyone mentioned, you know, the diversity of our supply chain, minority owned, women owned, queer owned. You know, we are, I think we've been focusing on that in the Southeast, definitely for the past 5+ years. And then of course, throughout our other networks. And we are, I think, very much at a great turning point from our customer base, where that is what that is a really important value that our customers are looking for, looking in the farm, the ownership structure, the practices and things like that. And so we can turn around and you know, create opportunities for these types of owned farms as well.
Nice, nice. All right, we have one more question in the chat, and please, if anything else has come up, please add it. Caitlin Porter asked, Neil mentioned that more and more of their institutional buyers are getting on board and excited about talking price before the season. So she wants to know, what's the secret on getting institutions ready to have these conversations? And are you filling out forward contracts with them or mostly handshake agreements?
Thanks, Caitlin. I'll definitely, I'll if you want to get in contact with our sales team to get more information on that, I would love to put you in contact with them. But from, you know, my side of it, you know, I think finding the right contact at the institution, and so in school systems, that's usually food service directors, in universities and hospitals, that's typically around sustainability impact, or for we do a lot of like office or corporate social responsibility work as well, and they can usually drive that the beginning of that conversation, but then it does really need to get to the chef level of who's doing the purchasing, because a lot of times in these types of institutions there's an overarching goal, but then that comes down to purchases on the chef level, and so it's engaging both of those networks, I think, is where we've seen the most success kind of across the board. And we are not filling out forward contracts currently. Most so far they've been handshake agreements, and then kind of with the understanding that we're kind of piloting something, or we're trialing it, and understanding on both ends of if the customer, you know, we kind of set expectations with the institution that, like, if you're committed to buying this is what this means, but we also want you to understand this isn't, you know, there's no penalty or anything for growers when something happens, or spec isn't met, or quantity isn't met, or something like that. So that's been our approach so far. We would love to get into more forward-thinking contracts, but I would say it's definitely a slow model. And as the, you know, depending on the type of institution, the kind of buying cycle that they have, it takes a little while to get those on board.
Thank you. Isn't any other questions from the audience? We have about a few more minutes left, and we'll probably try to get one more question in and start talking about our survey evaluation and closing remarks. Okay, Caitlin. All right. So I'll ask one more question and then we'll start closing up. So the value added processing and the ability to buy grade B produce is one way for farmers to be able to make a profit at wholesale costs. Do any of you work with value added processing or buy grade B or ugly produce from farmers? Yeah.
I can get started on that one. We do some value-added processing with some of our suppliers. I do caution them every year at our food safety trainings to be careful, because when you start down that road, you fall under the preventive controls rule and away from the produce food safety rule. And be careful what you ask for. That's all I'm saying. It's a heck of a lot more work, a lot more documentation. You really got to realize what you're getting yourself into. And you also need to be in contact with our produce category merchants so they realize what you're doing and make sure it's a item that we're going to purchase or have an interest in. A lot of cost involved in going down that road. So we caution them, don't even begin until you have that discussion with us and understand them, what you're getting into a little better. As far as the ugly produce, that is something we have not looked at this time. We've had discussions, but we have not gone down that road yet. So okay. That's all for Wegmans.
Thanks, Steve. It's hard for retailers to do that.
Yeah, like Steve said, we do have, we definitely like want to caution and help growers understand what value-added processing means. Like you mentioned, falling under preventive controls. One really great example I can think of is we do have a producer in Georgia that it does cut collards, and we worked with them. They had done it 10 years in the past, maybe when there weren't the same regulations that were in place, and we worked with them to get a HACCP plan in place and to understand, their full process. And that's something that maybe, especially on the food service side, we have a lot of opportunity to move value added process, but in the type of like fresh cuts or frozen, that's a really big opportunity, but it is a big on-farm cost and a big hurdle to jump, I think. Yeah, and so we've seen some success with that, but also very much understand that it's a hard one. And we don't move any grade, like ugly produce. But here in the Southeast, we do in all of our organizations and our warehouses. We usually we own them, and so we rent them out to tenants, and we mostly have mission aligned tenants that are either working in similar food areas, and so. And actually, in our warehouse, we have a gleaning and like nonprofit that works in kind of ugly distribution to food pantries, and so we've been able to partner some of our growers with them to where they're purchasing, of course, at much lower cost than they would with us, but it's kind of created a new opportunity, and it's all housed in the same building, so like deliveries can come into the same place. So while we don't do that directly, we definitely know of. We try and maintain a network of people in our area that may work with that.
Yeah, and on the sweetgreen side, we do some of our specs are off grade. We do particularly like carrots. We'll do number 2 carrots. We also do number 2 sweet potatoes. We do a lot of like flexible spec options where, so for example, like we run a seasonal dish with bell peppers, and we have a very flexible spec on colors. We don't really have too much of a preference on the colors that go into the actual end result salad. So we have our farmers are able to send straight cases of, yellow bells, mixed cases, we really can take anything. So we're really trying to, again, be like a good partner and be able to take whatever they have that week in terms of coloration and volume. So yeah, we are always looking to try to be as creative as possible on specs and off-grid, items where we can do that. And for value-added like processed items, we do work with a couple processors, but they're not on-farm processors. We'll work with like picklers who do a lot of like local sourcing. So yeah, we're not working a lot. We don't have, I don't think we have anyone right now in our network that is a on-farm processor at the moment.
For 4P, we do work with partners who do processing, slicing, dicing, whatnot. We are getting more and more into, farm to school programs. So, most of the schools would want diced carrots, sliced carrots, So we would organize how, the farmer would get the produce there. We would handle the logistics from there, or we can pick up the produce from wherever the farmer is. These would help them sell more and more of their produce. So we wouldn't do any of the processing. Our facility is not yet there, but yeah, we do work with I think 2 for now who handle processing for us. We haven't done much. We've just done pilots just to see if we can be able to fulfill some demands, for these schools. Because we know when we get into that path, we have to deliver. So yes, and we also have, last year during summer, there was a lot of waste with tomatoes. So we partnered with another farm in in Richmond, and they do processing. So now we have our own marinara sauce. So that helped tackle, this tomato waste. We were wasting so many, a day. So yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Well, people that are here and that we follow up with, can they reach out to any of you with questions or? Like, can we share everyone's email?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, great, great. And anyone who's still here, please remember to fill out the survey. We're going to put it in the chat box, and we're also going to send an email with the survey and all of this information and contact info. But it's really important so that we can continue to do this work for free and continue improving it, because we really value your feedback. Any closing remarks, Lindsay or any of the panelists? This has been amazing. Like, I'm over here wishing I could take more notes, and I'm going to rewatch this. It was really, really helpful. And I think it'll help a lot of people. And I hope a lot of people watch it in the future on our YouTube channel or on our website as well.
Yeah, thank you, all of you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I need to rewatch it too, because there's a lot of information that I missed and new things that I'm, that weren't around when I was doing the value chain coordination work myself. We just really appreciate you so much today.
All right, well, we'll follow up. Our email is info@chesapeakeharvest.com. So look out for an email and check out our website in the meantime. And yeah, thank you all for coming. And we'll keep you in the loop about future events as well. So have a good rest of your day. Eat some good lunch.
Thank you.
I might go
Thanks,
to
everyone.
Sweet Green later.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.